crazy, right? How scary would that be? I probably would have passed out right there on that table. He was willing to die before he would worship false gods. Hello guys. So today we're going to talk about a pretty wild story about Abraham. Did you know that before Abraham was called Abraham, his name was Abram? Just a fun fact there that I've just recently found out myself, which I'm surprised I haven't known this before, but it's true. So Abraham, or should I say Abram, wanted to be a righteous man. He wanted to be worthy and hold the priesthood, and he had a righteous desire. And when his family found out, this happened. Guys, his family did this. In Abraham chapter 1, verse 5, it says, "My fathers, having turned from their righteousness and from the holy commandments which the Lord their God had given unto them, unto the worshiping of the gods of the heathen, utterly refused to hearken to my voice." Abraham then tells us that they sacrificed their own babies. They sacrificed women, virgins, and other people. I don't blame Abraham for not wanting to be part of that. And eventually they were like, hey, let's sacrifice Abraham because he won't worship or obey the gods that we worship, even though they were false idols and weren't real gods. There was this video I watched in the Come Follow Me manual. If you want to check that out, go do that. I did watch it late at night in a dark room, and it freaked me out. So I don't recommend watching it that way, but I'll act it out for you. So they put him on a sacrifice table surface thing, and the bad guy holds up the knife. I can't have that in my video, so it's a shoe, but it represents a knife. And Abraham was like, no, please no. And the bad guys were like, we will sacrifice you. And Abraham was like, no. And then bam, lightning and thunder hit, and the bad guys were destroyed, and Abraham was saved by God. That's crazy, right? How scary would that be? I probably would have passed out right there on that table. That shows how willing Abraham was to obey Heavenly Father. He was willing to die before he would worship false gods. Just like I talked about Noah last week, these people in the Old Testament were strong and proved their faith. They had righteous desires that drove them to make good choices, and that is something we need to have for ourselves. It is to make sure our core mission is to do what is right. Elder Anderson talks about this beautifully. He said, "For me, a desire is a conscious, private longing for which each person is responsible. I believe there is a place inside of us that we uniquely and individually control and create. These desires are being constructed or developed, fortified or weakened constantly, whether they are righteous or unrighteous." So this is a call for us to look deep inside ourselves and wonder, what is it that I really want? And be honest with yourself. Do you want to be successful and rich in the eyes of everyone around you? Or do you prize worldly things over godly things? Or do you want to dedicate your life to serving the Lord? These are good questions to ask yourselves. What do you strongly believe in to the core? Something that cannot be shaken, your foundation. Is that the gospel? Is that what you believe in? Funny example, one time my parents were trying to tell me that they were going to go somewhere, or that they were not going to go somewhere. They had to cancel plans. And somehow I thought they were saying they didn't want to go to church anymore. I don't know how that happened, but that's what I thought. And I was shocked. And I started to get fired up and think in my head, if my parents stop going to church, I'm still going no matter what. And I'm going to drive there by myself every Sunday if I have to. But eventually they reassured me that was definitely not what they're saying at all. And I misheard them. And they are still going to church and their faith is strong, just to be clear. But this is an example of my desire to continue going to church. It was so strong that even if my family stopped going, I had the desire to still go. So if we educate our desires the right way, we can become the sons and daughters Heavenly Father wants us to be. And I know the person Heavenly Father wants me to be is greater than I can imagine right now. I mean, we potentially are going to be gods and goddesses making our own worlds. And for us to get there, we need to make sure we are exposing ourselves to good media, studying the gospel, doing those small things every day to feed our passions and desires that are good and starve the passions and desires that are bad. Because we all have bad desires, unfortunately, and that's because we're human, and part of this life is getting over them and replacing them with good ones. Now, Abraham has demonstrated his faith and his good desires, and so the Lord blesses him a lot. And guess what? We are part of those blessings, and we get some of those blessings too. And it's called the Abrahamic Covenant. Now, covenants aren't just viewed as sacred promises we keep with God. That is a big part of it, but it also is a way to enter into a relationship of trust with God, which makes it much more personal. When we make covenants with God, we trust that we will be blessed if we do our part, and God is bound to that. In Doctrine and Covenants, section 82, verse 10, it says, I, the Lord, am bound when ye do what I say, but when ye do not what I say, ye have no promise. So if we keep our end of the deal, without a doubt, he will keep his, and that is comforting. Many of the covenants we make in baptism, temple ordinances, the sacraments, so on, we are giving all that we are and all that we have to him. And that seems like a lot. It is. Sometimes I'm ready to give it all. I give him everything. I give him my life. And sometimes, not so much. I feel a bit selfish because I grow to love things of the world. And back to what we just talked about, feeding our desires. When I am like that, I'm feeding bad desires. And we don't always see it coming. But as I study more of what he promises us when we keep our covenants, I realize that we are getting a much bigger part of the deal than he is. We basically are getting everything out of it. When he gets out of it is us being able to live with him again and helping others make it back to live with him. Which, saying that out loud, also seems beneficial for us too. So really, if you ever feel like, oh, I have to keep all of these promises, I have to do so much. And it is a lot, but think of all the things you will benefit from this. It's amazing how all the commandments we keep, all the ordinances we do, all the covenants we make, we are blessed with immeasurable blessings. And overall, it is for all of our benefit. There is so much peace and joy that comes with keeping our covenants with the Lord. Like when we are baptized, we promise to always remember him. And by doing that, we have greater power to resist temptations, so I can live a more happy and safe life, which ends up being just what I want. And when we bear one another's burdens and mourn with those that mourn, I get so happy and I feel fulfilled in that peace. Not happy that we are mourning or sad, but that I got to give someone companionship during their hardships. I'm currently taking temple prep classes to prepare to get my endowments in the near future, and I'm beyond excited to make even more covenants with my Heavenly Father, which is going to be awesome. And then I'm going to make a stronger relationship of trust with him as well. Covenants are just awesome, guys. So I highly suggest studying in detail what the Abrahamic Covenant has for you personally, because even though it was made thousands and millions of years ago, it still applies to all the members of the church today, whether you are this is a squeaky table, whether you are a direct descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob or not. I want to end on this one quote about covenants given by President Nelson in our last General Conference. He said, "Whenever any kind of upheaval occurs in your life, the safest place to be spiritually is living inside your temple covenants. Please believe me when I say that when your spiritual foundation is built solidly upon Jesus Christ, you have no need to fear. As you are true to your covenants made in the temple, you will be strengthened by his power. Then when spiritual earthquakes occur, you will be able to stand strong because your spiritual foundation is solid and immovable. I love you, dear brothers and sisters. These truths I know. God, our Heavenly Father, wants you to choose to come to him. His plan of eternal progression is not complicated, and it honors your agency. You are free to choose who you will be and with whom you will be with in the world to come." That ending promise by President Nelson brings me so much comfort, knowing that you can choose who you will be with and who you want to be in the world to come. And I choose to be a righteous daughter of God and try my best like him and best to become like him. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed my video today and that it will help you with your personal studies this week. Stay tuned for next week's video about Lot and a pillar of salt. Things are going to get pretty interesting, guys. I'll see you next week.